Welcome to another episode of The Art of Giving a Damn. Today we're going into a topic that I've never actually talked about on this show, and I didn't even tell our guest, but I've got a story myself about this particular thing that you just might find fascinating. So make sure you stay tuned in. Let me introduce you to our guest here. After an MBA and 25 years in the corporate world, Jayne Sanders began a search for, much like a lot of us, more meaningful, joyful work helping people in deeper ways. And what she found was scientific hand analysis. And she said her life has never been the same since. She's now a Master Hand Analyst Teacher, Purpose Coach, and Law of Attraction Coach. So welcome, Jayne.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so happy to be here. I love talking about this work.
Yeah, I am really curious. So let's start with, what was that like? I mean, 25 years in the corporate world, and now you read hands.
Yeah, quite a shift.
How do those dots connect?
Yeah, it's not like somebody would look at me walking down the street and say, oh, there's a hand analyst in the making. You kind of told the story in a very short term, and just keeping it briefly. I wasn't happy in my work, and I had 3 different careers searching, and something was missing. I just knew there was something else I was supposed to be doing, and I couldn't find it. And I tried career coaches. I read all the books and filled out all the forms, and nothing was helpful enough. And so I started Googling, how do I find my life purpose? And ran across a headline for a teleseminar, and it said, discover your innate life purpose. I was like, oh, yes! So I clicked on it, and I saw the words hand analysis. And I was like, oh, man, I'm serious here. I really want my purpose. And then I saw scientific. And that one word kept me in the game, put aside my skepticism for the moment, and I listened to the teleseminar, and it was pretty credible. I really wanted my purpose. I got a hand analysis, changed my life.
Wow. All right, so there's so many different directions we could go here. I can imagine when you're searching through career websites and taking those tests, I don't think hand analyst is probably on any of their lists of potential careers. But,
well, the purpose that you get from a hand analysis isn't a job description. That would be cuckoo. But what it did tell me is that, well, first of all, it answers so many questions. Why these kind of things kept happening, why I responded this way, why these patterns kept showing up, why this made me happy, why this didn't make me happy, all those things. It was just amazing. But it did tell me that I needed to be helping people in very deep ways, and I needed to absolutely love what I do, which sounds good for anybody, but there is a particular mark that says if you don't love what you're going to do, not only are you not going to be happy, you're going to get kicked in the butt by the universe. So,
that doesn't sound like something we want to happen.
No, it doesn't feel very good. So it just took a few months. I knew if I took action on the information, and that's what I like about it, it's actionable, that I would figure it out. And within 3 months, I was like, oh my God, I was so on fire and inspired before I even knew what to do with this analysis. I want to help people feel like that. So that's why I decided to become a hand analyst.
How did people around you take that news when you basically, packed up your briefcase, so to speak, and decided to start your business doing this? What was the reaction you got?
The only people that it really impacted, or that I'm sure thought I was cuckoo, was my family, because I had already been a professional speaker in the corporate world for over 15 years. So I was on my own, but calling on the corporate world. I left the big corporate job, before that. So, I'm sure my family thought I was nuts, and I don't care. So
that's how you found the right thing to do.
Oh, yeah. I'm just so fired up about this work. It's so fulfilling.
I can imagine, and that's got to be really rewarding as well, to be able to show people another way to look at what maybe is possible or potential for them in life.
It's so fulfilling, Michelle. The accuracy is mind-blowing. It is scientific.
Yeah, so let's talk about that part for a minute. Okay. I know I went to your website, and one of the things I saw that was like Well, that doesn't seem like it would necessarily belong. There was Forbes did an article and featured you and featured the science.
Yeah.
And that's, so tell me about the scientific part of it.
So in a nutshell, the lines in your hands actually mimic the neural pathways in your brain.
Oh, okay.
And really, in your hands is pretty much everything about who you are and why you're here. So it reveals your innate life purpose, how you're meant to make a difference in the world, the gifts you have that help you fulfill that purpose, and the blind spots, the tripping points that are keeping you from being on purpose and that trip you up in all aspects of your life. And that's the actionable piece.
That is really interesting.
It's mind-blowing. Yeah.
So what kind of things do you see when clients come to you? And I would love to know more about how you actually work, because I know you don't just work in person. You actually work with people all over the world.
Yeah.
So how does that part work? And what are the things you see when clients come to you? What are the most, I guess, common things that would come up for somebody from their hands?
The most common things, because there's so many different things. And, just an example. So I've analyzed over 3,000 hands, so over 1,600 people. And nobody yet has had the exact same purpose. That's how detailed this stuff is. And it's a learnable database. Anybody can learn it. I'm starting to teach it next fall.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I would say the most common foundation of a purpose, because I do purpose in two ways, the foundation and then an expanded version. The most common foundation is probably creativity, artist spotlight, which doesn't have to mean visual art. It can mean how you think, right? How you solve problems, ideas you get, how you put systems and processes together, speaking, doing podcasts, all that is creativity. And as far as the remote, I use handprints.
Okay.
So I don't even do it live. So here's an example. And, if I hold this really close, can you see all the little tiny details?
Yeah.
So everything means something. So I use handprints. I mail out handprint kits. They take their prints. They get them back to me, and then we set up a Zoom call. So I do have clients in lots of the corners of the world.
That is really fascinating. So what's been the most profound thing you've run across when reading hands?
The most profound, would be, so in my mind, profound, interpreted through hand analysis means rare.
Okay.
So there's a particular place where a fingerprint can be. By the way, over half my clients have fingerprints in their palms, and they don't even know it, so that's cool.
Interesting.
But some of them aren't rare. If you have a fingerprint between your index finger, which we use different names for, and your middle finger up here, that's very rare. I've seen maybe fewer than 5, but certainly fewer than 10 out of over 1,600. And another thing that's rare, and by the way, that means, depending on which hand, let's say right hand, that you're meant to be a leader in business. And then, or that's part of your design, part of your blueprint. Another rare one would be a high-ranking print, because every fingerprint has a different numerical ranking. And if you have a really high-ranking print in this outer corner, which we call the moon, this is all about intuition and, deep introspection, stuff like that. And a high-ranking print there is very rare. And that means you are definitely what's called a spiritual teacher. You're meant to help people through crisis of meaning, through core identity, changes and transitions, things that are just challenging.
What's it like for clients when they come to you with this uncertainty or curiosity, and they get back this report from you about these different things that you're seeing?
It's very validating. Some people cry because they've never felt that seen or understood. It can be overwhelming for some people because they just can't take in like all their gifts or a few people are so far from their purpose they can't even relate to it, but most people are like, I kind of knew that, but that sounds so big. And I'm like, well, every purpose sounds big. Who wants a dopey little purpose? Number one, and number two, nobody has a purpose they are not capable of fulfilling. No, it just doesn't work that way. So they feel validated. They feel confirmed. It gives them empowerment to step into their gifts and their purpose because they've been given permission from an outside expert.
Right.
So that pretty much covers the gamut of how they take it in. But it's very, as me as a hand analyst, it's so fulfilling because it's life-changing. You take action on it, your life is going to get better. I don't care how good it is now.
Yeah. It's funny because as you're sitting there describing the different reactions, I'm sitting here thinking, I think I had all of those reactions because I actually had my hands read, I think 8 or 9 years ago now.
Really? By an analyst, not a palm reader?
I did. No, I've never been to a palm reader, but I had a client who actually the way I ran across it was a client asked me to review her sales page. And we had just started working together. She did quite a few different things, and I landed on this page that was talking about how you could find your purpose through having your hands read. And I started out with, okay, all right, I'm just going to analyze this from the perspective of if you believe in this, that's everybody's choice, right? Because I was raised extremely conservative Christian. These things were not just woo-woo, it was off limits.
Right.
And I started reading through it and realized it was not the $5 palm reader kind of thing at all. It wasn't some sort of predict your future with a crystal ball. And I saw the testimonials from people. And I was like, okay, there might be something to this. Yeah. And she used the kit too, where I had ink on my hands and put them on the paper, sent them over. You may be connected. And she sent me back this report. And it's funny because it's actually what led to me getting my nose pierced. It's the only piercing I have. And I used to wear a little tiny silver star in it. That's what I got it pierced with. And it was right after I got my hands read. And part of it talked about, I forget exactly the way it was phrased, but something about not being afraid to step out and shine, and that there was, things that I was destined to do, and that, be a star type part of your life. And at the time it was absolutely overwhelming. I thought, there's no way I'm ever going to get on a stage in front of people. There's no way, and I kind of sat with it for a few days, and then I had the other reaction to it of feeling very validated, of some part of me knew there were certain things I was supposed to be doing that I wasn't. And it's why I was struggling with depression and other things at that time in my life.
Yep.
I went and got my nose pierced as a very visible reminder, and I wore that little star for years. I would not take it out because I needed that visual every time I looked in the mirror reminder.
That's so great you did that. I love it.
It was amazing, and that's something that I think I've only shared that story 2 or 3 times, and I've never shared it like this before, but it seemed an appropriate one to share.
Yeah,
because I had the same reaction probably your family did of, really? That's what you're doing? That's, but it was really fascinating to get that back and read it. I was shocked, honestly, by what was in there, and it was very validating to see, oh, okay, maybe there's something bigger. Because I think most of us, and you can speak to this with the work you do with clients, but I think a lot of us have that feeling of, I've got to be here for something bigger. There's got to be something more for me to do than go to work, pay my bills, and then wake up and do it all over again the next day.
Yeah. No, that's very true, Michelle. And that's what I was suffering from, is that something was missing. I was off track. And that's what I do as a purpose coach. The hand analysis is just the beginning. Some people do just get the hand analysis, but then I can help them identify what that purpose can look like in terms of their ideal work, how to get in alignment with it, and then how to use their gifts.
Right. And that's such an important part of the process, I think, because when you have something like that looking at you printed on paper and you're suddenly facing, oh, I guess there is more that I could do, and maybe this gives me some guidance and direction. You do need some support to process that and figure out, what do you do with it?
Yeah, most people do. Some people get one just for the validation. They're like, well, I think I'm on track, but I'm not really sure. And am I headed in the right direction? And I'm thinking about doing this. Does this align? You know, so, and some people are just curious. Some people are just very devoted to personal growth and development. So they want to know what their hands have to tell them. And it's just fascinating. I just love it. You know, you saw on my website then dozens and dozens of testimonials.
You did. So I'm curious, when you deliver the reports, what percentage of people are totally shocked by what comes back and what percentage are like, yeah, this makes sense?
And first of all, I have an hour discussion with them before I send any reports. So I can communicate everything and make it make sense. And I'm going to say 95% are like, yep, I knew it. Makes sense. I'm not doing it, but I knew it and I get it. And I see that in myself. And now I need to own it, you know, and embrace it. And then, and the difference is, Michelle, people who are a far distance from self-awareness are the ones that don't see it. No.
This is a good step in that direction, I would think, for anybody to
helpful for anybody.
See what's there, yeah. So as far as like practical steps for people, I know we can't like grab people's hands from my podcast audience, and it doesn't quite work that way. But once people know what their purpose is, and if they're not in alignment with that right now, because I know a lot of us, we question that. Am I actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I doing it in the right way with the right people? You know, all of those purpose questions. What are a couple of steps that you give clients once they know what it is to help them get in alignment?
You know, it's the old thing that you've heard a million times. First of all, if you're on purpose, you're going to know it, because you're absolutely going to love your work. And it doesn't mean you may not be having income challenges and other challenges in your life. And all those challenges show up in the hands, by the way. And that's why it's so actionable. So if you love what you do and you know you're making a difference, you're on purpose. And there are multiple ways to express your purpose. There's not just one job for anybody. So, and likely it will evolve. You know, it's not just making a change and boom, you're there for the rest of your life. It will likely change and move around a little bit, or you add stuff to it. You know, you keep adding little sprinkles on the top. So as far as getting in alignment, it's look for what you love. Think about the type of people, the groups that you would be fulfilled by helping. And usually, not always, but usually it comes from some experience that you've had. You know, something you've struggled with, that now you're very connected to that challenge, that struggle. Or somebody you love that has struggled with, like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, right? So that mother didn't have a problem with drunk driving, but her child was killed by someone. So, you know, somebody she loved was very impacted by that issue. Look how long I struggled for decades to figure out my purpose until I found this. Now what do? I help people discover and get on purpose and love their lives.
That is one of my favorite things about the space we're in as far as entrepreneurial businesses go, is that so much of what inspires us to do what we do is we had that personal struggle through it, and it makes it so much easier for me when I help people with their marketing, because you know what that person feels like. All we got to do is connect them with your story, you know, and have that open conversation of, hey, if this is where you're at and this is how you're feeling, I actually get it, and I found the solution.
Exactly.
And that's where I think something that is so important comes in, and that's the idea of learn from people who've actually solved the problem. Don't try to solve it yourself. Don't stay stuck when somebody else has figured out the solution and has already been through it.
Well, and you're exactly right. And another tip, you asked for a couple of tips. One, think about what you've struggled with and how what you might be fulfilled by helping people through. And gosh, I just lost my track of thought. I just saw it like disappear into the ethers. So it's the people. Oh yeah. So for example, with my hand analysis, I could have also been a therapist, become a counselor or a psychotherapist. I didn't want to do that. Coaching is different, but I wasn't. And so don't go, even though I could be, because I have all the gifts and all the skills for it, but I don't have the desire for it. So you've got to have the desire for what you're doing and love it. It's so important to love our lives. That's what the universe wants for us. I mean, it's just so important. So you got to follow that too.
Absolutely. That's a piece that without that, whatever we're doing, it will not be something that we get excited about and want to get out of bed every day and go do.
Nope. Exactly.
I love that. Well, for those of you who are listening and would like to know a little bit more, I will put a link below the video or in the show notes, wherever you're watching or listening, where you connect with Jayne. Her website is purposewisdom.com. So you go to purposewisdom.com and you'll find all sorts of goodies. There's a free gifts box right up at the top. You're going to want to put your name and email address right in there. You'll get a video about your relationship style because, well, we've been talking about this in terms of business and life purpose. You can also learn some things about yourself and your love life and your relationships. That's got to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it's any relationship, but people usually do it because of romance, so.
Well, that's a good reason, but it's always helpful to know more about yourself, to understand a little bit more about who you are and what you're here to do.
Yep, for sure, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I appreciate your time.
Oh, I love talking about it, Michelle. Thank you for inviting me. You've been a great host. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Absolutely. And again, for those of you listening, be sure to stop by Jayne's website and check out her blog. Has some fantastic info on it. She's got examples of handprints, videos that you can take a look at to learn a little bit more about this because you don't have to have the nose piercing that I did. You may just want to get your hands read to find out. What do they say? What can they tell you? It's a very interesting and apparently scientific that matches the patterns in your brain.
Yep.
So I definitely learned something new today. Hopefully all of our listeners did as well. Thank you again, Jayne. I appreciate you being on.
Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.
All right, guys, make sure you click subscribe, like, rate, review the show, and join me again for another episode. I will see you there.